Minimal. Okay. I didn't know how I was going to fill 19 minutes, but I just had to do that. So, thank you for coming out today. So minimal. Let's see here. Okay, 1 second. So this is an interior design project I did for a Parisian couple last fall. I'm actually not really sure why Blake invited me to speak today. No, I've been doing art lately, and I'm not sure I'm a stark minimalist, but I really just follow my curiosity. But today I want to take a look at minimalism. I want to show its influence on me, and then maybe talk a little bit about what's great about it, what's not so great. So yeah, let's start by taking a look at minimalism in a few disciplines. So here's an example of minimal architecture. The concept of minimalist architecture is to strip everything down to its barest essential qualities: light, form, detail of material, space. It was the rejection of ornament, like what we saw in the Rococo style or the arts and craft movements. And here we see minimalism in design. The industrial designer Dieter Rams exemplified it when he said, "Good design is as little design as possible." And here, in the graphic design of Paul Rand, we see the subject has really been reduced to only its necessary elements. He said, "To design is to transform prose into poetry." He has the same accent as Dieter Rams, by the way. And in minimalist art, we can see the rejection of personal expression. Minimalists thought that the work of art should not refer to anything other than itself. It was not metaphor, it was not narrative, it wasn't about politics or culture, nor an anecdote about your mother's cooking. It just is. And more currently, in web design, the minimal influence is prevalent because decoration gets in the way of usability. It becomes interference. It actually works against the medium. For me, minimalism is really asking what is important and letting it be that. What's important, be that. This is what minimalism means to me. So you might be wondering how I got there. Well, 8 years ago, we took a road trip across the country. We landed in a small town in West Texas called Marfa. In Marfa, Donald Judd created these large works of concrete in the landscape. And for him, the materials were its reality, concrete. And artistically, that's precisely what he wanted to share, its literalness. Judd employed industrial techniques in his art making, working with metalworkers, contractors, manufacturers. It was about precision and material and space. Judd had become quite popular in the New York art scene in the 1960s, and in the late 70s, with the help of the Art Dia Foundation, he acquired a former military base in Marfa, along with dozens of buildings. And in those buildings, he created these permanent homes for some of his contemporaries at the time, Dan Flavin, who worked with fluorescent lights, basically materials you could get at the hardware store. And John Chamberlain, who would crush automobiles with massive machinery into balls, really like just wads of paper. Judd did furniture design and architectural space. Nearby I saw these. These are not art. This is dividers for campers. I guess it really gave me a new way of looking at things, kind of this fresh response to Sol LeWitt's piece, which is here in Atlanta near Freedom Parkway, 54 columns. Sol LeWitt was a minimalist and a conceptual artist, and he believed you chose the medium to match the idea. He also believed in sort of creating this distance between the artist and the artifact. In fact, he would make written instructions for wall drawings, and the set of instructions for the art was itself the art. In many cases, he displayed those in museums rather than the artifact it produced. So the question, again, of minimalism is really a question of what's important. I get lift from uncovering new things. I find this about myself, new ways of making, new processes. And I really believe that it's curiosity that fuels this, to ask questions. In third grade, I signed up for football. It was the first time I had seen one of these. And I thought, interesting, curious. It's called a cup. Therefore, by definition, it holds liquids. Well, to test this theory, I peed in it. And it was not like a cup at all. Curious. As a kid, I rationalized if when I ate a chocolate chip cookie and it mixed with the water in my mouth and it tasted so good, wouldn't it likewise taste great if I crushed it up with a hammer, mixed it in a glass of water, and drank that? No, it did not. I say this because somewhere in adulthood, we begin to shed our childhood curiosity. And I think that this is a shame, because curiosity fuels discovery. I believe making is discovery. This is what I enjoy. I find meaning in that. After Martha, I began seeing, creating art as a place where I could experiment, to make new things. And unlike design and art, I could just create. Learning about minimalist art became this leaping off point for exploring new ways of producing art. I would make laser-cut acrylic and layer them together. I called this the transpose series because of this simple transposing geometry, a dimple in an otherwise simple rectangle. I created 2D works on paper. And when I went bigger, I began to paint using painter's tape. Following my curiosity, I would hang these in nature, loving that contrast of geometry and the organic. I made this bear. And then I discovered this. Have you guys seen this? So this is called dazzle. It's a form of maritime camouflage used in World War I. Patterns like this were used to kind of break up the massing of Navy warships. It was intended to make it difficult for you to kind of detect a ship's heading, bearing, and speed. I just thought it was amazing just from an aesthetic point of view. And it inspired me to continue to experiment with the stripes and kind of increasing the oscillation. I did this top recently for Minnie Cooper, part of Modern Atlanta this year. But this time, following that curiosity, I wanted to see what it would be like if I freehanded it with a paintbrush. For me, I kind of wanted to see what it was like to let go of precision, something I carried over from design, and embrace imperfection, following my curiosity. Last December, I was laid off from my job, and no one's hiring in December, so I thought, inspiration road trip, Actually, I called it an art pilgrimage trip, very refined. I didn't tell my family about that because they wouldn't have come with me. Um, this is Cadillac Ranch in Texas, some cars in the middle of a field. We returned to places like Marfa and explored new places like White Sands, New Mexico. I really wanted us to go places where it was impossible to replicate in a photograph. This is 275 square miles of desert, and it's so white because it's made out of gypsum rather than the sand you would see in on a beach. And because gypsum has this sound dampening quality, it was super quiet. Everything your voice just really fell. And gypsum doesn't absorb heat, so we could take our shoes off and it was cold to walk around on, which was amazing. Plus we got to sled down the dunes for fun. You know, I've always been a bit jealous of land artists who literally move mountains to create work in and alongside nature. Artists who make it this scale are just mind-boggling to me. I'm sure you guys have seen Christo's running fence. It's 25 miles of a fabric fence in Sonoma County. Maya Lin's Wave Field, best known for her Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C. The Lightning Field out in New Mexico by Walter de Maria. It's 400 stainless steel poles in a grid over a kilometer. I found myself placing objects I had made in the studio in the environments and landscapes as we traveled. I was particularly, again, interested in this organic versus the geometric, and here in the Salt Flats, and here in the Appalachian Mountains at Hambidge. It was in Bentonville, Arkansas, at the Crystal Bridges Museum that we were able to experience one of James Turrell's sky spaces. The colors against the ceiling would shift at sunset, and it would change your perception of the sky, as you viewed it through this oculus. Amazing. James Turrell works directly with light and space, and he really engages the wonder of human perception. So then I found these. These are light bulbs that you can control the color of with your phone. And I thought, oh man, I can experiment like James Turrell. I can play with light now, right? And so that's what I did. I made light fixtures that change colors. This is an installation for a dashboard co-op show where over the course of the evening the lights would sort of shift in color. I was invited to DJ at Mint for Sumptuary a few months ago. And I used those lights to color the room. I wanted the room to change colors every hour or so. And as a DJ, I would put the orange vinyl on and then change the room orange. No one cared, but I was entertaining myself. My buddy David Van Arsdale gave me some fluorescent lights. We suspended those in, again, that transposing geometry in this warehouse space that was Tyler Perry's former studio. It's going to be the Krog Street Market. This was for Wonder Farm. Again, I've been wrestling with letting go of control, and I liked particularly just letting the chords hang and sort of be themselves, just let them be, where in design you try and hide that sort of thing. I was curious as to what would happen if the lights we did maybe less geometrically. And so at the goat farm, me and a team of folks installed this in a former warehouse space without a roof. We suspended these without worrying about precision. They're not placed quite right. Who cares? Hardware, chords, all its glory. And that was just a wonderful thing. What was important was this cornucopia type gesture, this beginning at a point and then just exploding, less about precision, but really all about material. And this is another area that minimalism really influences me. material. As I've continued to do art, there's been this process of unlearning design, letting go of control. I discovered urethane, which is this plastic. It would start as a liquid. I loved how I could pour it over objects and it would turn to molasses and then harden into place. I began pouring it over everything: sticks, beer bottles, cans of La Croix, stools. I started pouring them over wooden boxes. I loved how there was sort of like I could hang this on the wall and it was like the art's escaping from the canvas. I just really enjoyed exploring this material to see kind of what it would do. I would drizzle it over paper. I would pour it over light bulbs and light fixtures. And I loved how it was alive for a few minutes while it sort of dripped and pooled. And then it would just freeze into place. Our sponsor even likes to drip. I poured plastic over these phone booths as a way to kind of bring attention to the fact that they litter our landscape now. And it worked. The city came out like a couple of weeks later, and but instead of removing the phone booth, they basically cleaned all the plastic off of it. So nice job, guys, but you missed the point. But so we've all heard of molecular gastronomy, this exciting new chapter in food preparation. Have you guys seen this? This is Soylent. It's invented by a former Georgia Tech student. It's a powder. You blend it with water and you drink it. It's filling and it provides all the nutrients the body needs. I hear it tastes like cream of wheat. I've ordered some to try it out. Extreme minimalist cuisine, perhaps. And I know what you're thinking. People, Solid Green is made of people. No, what you're really thinking is, I really love food, though. I love the smell, the color, the taste, just the joy that comes with eating a great meal. Well, the problem comes in moments like this, right? It's those in-between moments. You're short on time. This is minimalist McDonald's, by the way. Love that. So maybe there is a place for this sort of thing. Saving time, not eating the crap food, nutrients, save money, it's cheaper. It's much more efficient than our agricultural. It can scale. It could very well solve the world hunger problem. I'm working on a prototype for a Soylent delivery system. I've gotten a bit off track, I'm sorry. Yes, we talked a little bit about minimalism, where it came from, some of it in a few disciplines, and then a bit about how it influenced me. The question remains, is it the way? I'm not sure. I mean, it can be seen as lacking humanity, right? It's cold. I mean, who would ever live like this but villains? But reduction is powerful. It really is about clarity over cleverness. And that's a good thing. It's about asking what's important and letting it be that. So let me close with this. I worked as a cook in Yellowstone one summer. During the orientation, the director began by playing videos of tourists being mauled by bison. Clip after clip of tourists being thrown and speared and run over. 5 minutes these clips went on. Some people laughed, but after the videos were done, he slowly walked across the stage and he approached the podium and he said, don't approach the bison. That was it. Orientation over. What's important? Don't approach the bison. Okay, we'll see you. So you can imagine a few weeks later when I'm on my way to the kitchen early one morning and I run into this on my front porch. I thought, don't approach the bison, don't approach the bison, don't approach the bison. The director's message had worked. Minimalism at work there. Then he started making this sound. He really arched his back. It was. I stood there in fear, but partly in fascination. Finally, after the third one of those, out came a hairball the size of a softball. And if you don't know the size of a softball, it's about 4 inches. This is a pretty massive hairball. Continue to marvel at things. Be curious. Make new things. Thank you.
All right. That was awesome. Thanks, Kevin. We're going to do Q&A now, so if you have questions, raise your hand. Kevin can call on you, and I'll run the microphone over to you so the video will record your question. Take it away, audience. You can call on.
Oh, here. Sorry.
Hey, so as someone who's interested in minimalism, do you have any interest in the tiny house movement that's happening?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's, I mean, we've all come to realize that we all have too much stuff and that being small is good. That's all I got. Any others? Right here.
Hi. I'm an architect, but curious as to why you left architecture, maybe not completely, but why and how did you support your life? More about the lifestyle and the financial supplements and how you became contract freelance.
Yeah. So why I left architecture and how I support myself financially? Well, okay. It's funny, I left architecture to support myself financially. I love architecture. I love the design process. I love learning about that. What's great about it is you're working with so many different things that you really have to have really broad-stroking concepts to deal with human perception and space and light and engineering. Amazing. As a profession, I didn't really find that it was all of that it was cracked up to be. The realities of that, over the course of history, contractors really have taken the chunk away from architects, and I'm always still in awe of people who find passion in that and are really successful. But for me, it was I wanted to explore some other talents, basically. How I supported myself financially now, or yeah.
I'm thinking about jumping ship because of the same reasons, but at the same time, it's the starving artist lifestyle versus, at least in architecture, I'm a big fan of stability.
Yeah, stability is great, right? But, the reality is stability is an illusion, right? I mean, you got a job. You can be fired at any time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I learned that when I was let go. It's not stability, right? Maybe it's, I get health insurance, right? Great thing, awesome. Well, being unemployed with Obama health care, you get pretty heavy discounts. So that didn't seem to be a problem with me. There's a tax credit out there to help people. I think the real trouble is how do you plan for your retirement, right? So how do you save money? Because there's 401k plans, which are great. They kind of help you plan for retirement. I haven't figured that one out yet. You young entrepreneurs out there, if you want to come up with a way for freelancers to invest and be the Uber of that, that's great, by the way. Because, it's like you spend whatever you get sort of thing. So I think it's really about having faith, right? It's about, the universe takes care of you, right? And you just have to have faith that it'll take care of you when you don't have that stability. And that's all I can hope for, so, yeah. Any other questions? Right over here.
Hey, Kevin. So the piece that you did with the Mini, where you transitioned from using the tape and being very defined with your process to allowing yourself to be loose, what happened for you as far as gratitude at the result of a final piece, seeing that it was very different aesthetically, but...
Yeah, well, it's interesting you bring that up. Here's the secret. I approach art making as like maybe a scientist, like it's experiments, right? And what comes out the other end is sometimes inconsequential. It's just the artifact that came out. It can be a failure, it can be a success. It was more like I'm driven by my curiosity. Do I hold it in higher regard of some other things that I did that perhaps were trying to approach precision? Maybe, but at the end of the day, it's really about like what am I learning here, as opposed to what is the thing that comes out on the other side. I enjoyed it. I liked freehanding. I liked feeling my body, sling paint, not worried about, oh, I spilled it on the carpet type of thing, just really throwing that paint. The thing with precision is unless it's being done by a machine, you're never going to get there, right? It's like approaching absolute zero. And so when I started to realize this, I just kind of wanted to let go of that a little bit. And I've been happy with where it's headed. It's just kind of this avenue of experimentation I'm just going to, further explore. So, right here, right next to you.
That was necessary. Good morning. Just out of curiosity, what are you curious about now? What has your interest? What are you marveling at?
Well, I mentioned Soylent. Vajazzle, what is this? I had that in my slide, but I didn't want to go down that route. What is going on there? Right now I'm kind of curious about choreography. I don't know, I really do love modern dance. I don't know, it warms my heart, that sort of art form. And I tried modern dance for a couple of years. I just took classes to try it out with my own body, and I was not, well, I sweated too much. I remember we were doing these spins across the room, we're all in a line, and we get to the other side, and I look to the girl to the right of me, and my sweat is like slung on her. And I could tell from the look on her face that I wasn't going to be a modern dancer. But choreography is really just, it's kind of interesting to me. I like seeing what's happening in the arts community here in Atlanta. I know we're all really coming from design in this room mostly, but it used to be, friends would have to leave the city to do art. But now I'm starting to see this stickiness, like talent's really sticking around in Atlanta, and I'm really excited by that. A lot of the nonprofits like Burnaway and Arts ATL and Wonder Root, they all are sort of, helping to create that stickiness. I also am really excited about the startup community movement here in Atlanta. I think that that gets me really excited by what I see happening there. So, yeah.
Let's do one more question.
One more question. Anyone? Over here.
curious, what's the least minimal aspect of your life?
Least minimal. Did I show you the Parisian interior? No. I don't know. I mean, there's always just ways to kind of work on the amount of stuff you have, you know? It's like a constant purge of really evaluating, do I really need this thing? Is it really enriching my life? So, you know, we're always kind of working on that. You know, I don't know how to answer that, Craig. I'm not really sure. You know, I don't have like a fur coat or robe. I mean, it's not my fashion. Yeah, I don't know. Good. All right.
All right, let's give a round of applause for Kevin.